everybody. Welcome back to the Glory Glory My Night podcast. Not so much Glory Glory tonight. It's been another really shite performance by United away from home against one of the teams in the top 10 and another defeat. I have to be honest and say that is what we deserved, given how we
Yep.
played, especially in the second half, and once again didn't take our chances in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Um, United easily could have been down to 9 men in the second half. Unfortunately, our best player gave away the penalty in the end. So Matthew, what was your thoughts on that game?
Do you know, like there was increments of it, like tiny little just pieces of it that you were like, oh, we actually look okay here. And then you'd go 20 minutes and you're going, are we going to do anything? And then you'd get like 5 minutes of something and you go, oh, maybe, no, and it's gone again. Oh, okay, that was it. There was nobody that stood out. Shaw kind of done quite well, but nothing exceptional. Outside of that, there was nobody. Sabitzer come on, looked lively. But there's nothing to really, there's nobody to shout about at all.
No, definitely not. Yeah, so I forgot to introduce you. So Matthew, it's good to have you back on the show. I think it's the first
Hello.
time since February that they've had you on,
It's been a
and
while.
I
I
wish
can't
I was
remember.
under
Did I have
better
a mustache then? I might have been rocking the full 70s porno stash then. I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but um, I wish you were on under better circumstances. But these really poor performances and defeats are starting to become more common now, as because we're starting to limp over the line, and
Mm-hmm.
the players are starting to give the impression now in recent games that they think that they've qualified for top four already. Well, they
Yeah.
haven't, because Liverpool are now on a coattails. Brighton are still in with a chance after that win. Tottenham probably won't be in the
I'm not worried.
race.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
But we have not consolidated that at all now. We need to go to West Ham now and get a victory, which won't be easy. Because they've been picked up wins in recent weeks, and they're obviously still fighting for their lives. So, um, but I think it's Brighton now has done the double over us this season, and once again, United failed to win at the Amex when there's a crowd present. The only three times that we've won at the Amex is when it's been behind closed doors during the COVID era.
It's a nice
But
little
any
stat,
time there's
that.
been
I
a
like it.
crowd in that stadium, United have been humiliated. Tonight wasn't quite a humiliation in terms of the scoreline, but they were absolutely crap from start to finish. I've no idea why the manager selected Martial and Fred. I flagged that up as soon as I seen it. I was thinking, what are they doing in the team? And both of them were absolutely awful, offered nothing. And then Ten Hag took to 74 minutes to make a substitution and still didn't bring on Christian Eriksen. If Christian
Mm-hmm.
Eriksen's not fit enough to come on as a sub, then what's he doing on the bench? It just absolutely baffled me. So I know Ten Hag and the team have had a decent season, but he definitely played a role in United losing that game tonight. So I'm just absolutely pissed off, to be honest with you. So how did you see it from the selections and the substitutions? Then Matthew, what did it frustrate you as well?
Honestly, seeing the lineup before the game, I was like, oh, okay, fine. There's nothing there that was like, oh, that's groundbreaking or oh my God, that's shocking or anything. It was literally just like okay, that kind of makes sense. I can see why. Veghorst hasn't been fantastic. So starting Martial doesn't really sort of cause any problems in terms of confidence issues in Veghorst or confidence issues in Martial. I think it would affect Martial more if you'd have played Veghorst over him. But again, that's more a man management side of things in terms of actual systematic play. Again, we went out there and done the same thing that we've done to Brighton in the last game, and I say it worked then. I mean, we got the win, but not comfortably. I think a lot of it falls down to personnel at the club, not in the team sheet today. I think the issue is that we don't have a registered striker that can stay fit for more than 4 games and is genuinely able to score more than 5 goals in a 3-month period. Like it's really hard to rely upon 2 forwards and a guy that's playing out of position and then wondering why we're not scoring goals. Like you look at our goal difference and that should scream everything at us of like how poor we've been. And like defensively, we have not been awful all year at all. We really haven't. Few lapses of judgment, few errors, the least amount of penalties given to us. So in terms of Defensive structure, we're fine, just a few errors. In terms of offensive structure, we've got unlucky with the penalties, and we've also just not had anyone that's worth talking about. I really do like Veghorst as a player for a team structure, but as a goal scorer, he just isn't. It just isn't it. You look at like in control of the game. We were never going to control the game against Brighton. That's just not what we're going to do to them. They're going to control it better than us. Pep Guardiola said it himself. Brighton are one of the best tactical squads in the league. Near certainly said that 2 weeks ago. Either he said that or I've had a dream about it, which would be even weirder. But when you look at it, that Jason Steele, who played in as Brighton's keeper today, had 42 passes, 37 of which were completed. That's more than everyone on our team today, apart from Luke Shaw and Bruno Fernandes. That's the level it's at. We had De Gea, who had 40 passes, only half of them landed to somebody. Like, that long ball over the top is just not doing anything. And I watched them do it 3, 4, 5 times. I was just like, who were you even aiming for there? Like, a long ball over the top's fine if you're aiming for a Veghorst or a McTominay or one of these big lads that you know might win a head. If you had a Fellaini in there, I'd have got it. But we don't. And the guys that we're hitting it to is just either nobody in our team or somebody that's never going to win that header, like Rashford or Fred or something. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm a big De Gea fan. I never was one to massively rat on him or call him out on any of his stuff. But like, today just was like 50% pass accuracy, which, look, I'm not expecting 100%. I'm not expecting every single pass. I'm not expecting him to be the greatest passer of all time. That's not what I'm expecting. What I am expecting is some of his passes to make sense. That's the level we were at from playing at the back, which when you're playing Brighton and they're going to press you or let you just sort of do what you need to do and then just take the ball and just nip it right at you, which they done. Look at Matoma, constantly getting shown wide, just holding the ball until they need to, trying to take that shot on the inside. Wan-Bissaka done great holding him down. But in terms of holding the ball and actually doing anything with it, we done nothing of note at all. There was no attack that I was like, oh, this is the one. This is the one that we're going to score in.
De Gea just cannot be part of a team that plays it out from the back. And there's no point in him kicking it long because nobody competes in the air and nobody can hold the ball up. It just comes straight back every time De Gea goes long. Because like Martial and Rashford to a lesser extent don't compete. Veghorst does a wee bit more, but he usually fouls someone in the process and gives away a free kick. So yeah, it's something. If Ten Hag truly wants to implement, his style of play at United, he's going to have to move De Gea on. To be honest with you, he's been a fantastic servant, but I don't think he's really going to fit in with the Ten Hag philosophy. To be honest with you,
no, I think De Gea as a player in general is kind of just past it. As a goalkeeper, he's exceptional. As a passer of a ball and a team player in a side that's going to do that, which I don't know if you could name me a side that doesn't try and play out from the back at the moment, but it's incredibly difficult to find one. He's going to struggle to find a club where they're not going to want to play out the back, and the clubs that don't play out the back are not going to pay his wages or even get remotely close to paying his wages. Like, the teams that don't play out the back are sitting bottom of the Premier League, and they're not going to go, do you know who we need? 300 grand a week, David De Gea. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, even if Mourinho took him at Roma, I mean, they couldn't afford that either.
They can't afford it, no. They just about have a fiver at the moment, man. They've got no money at all. They can't afford him.
No, did you see Mourinho wearing a wire to hear what the officials were?
Love that.
So record what the officials were saying. I've never come across
fully nuts. Like, he's losing it. He's getting absolutely mental, and it's great. I'm all for it. Maybe 5 years from working at like Crew Alexandra and just decking like League 2 referees. I can't wait.
Yeah, he's going doolally now, wearing a wire, like as if he's some kind of police informant. Because I don't know what he's at. He's like so untrusting of officials that he's recording what they're saying, so that if they say something dubious, then he has it as evidence. But that's just nuts.
Wouldn't be like Italy to be suspicious and a little bit dodgy, eh? Italian football, they never do that. They're never dodgy at all.
For those of you who don't want to see next week's Italian football results, look away now.
Yeah, it's rough. I know I said to you before we
So
come on here
coming
that I
back,
didn't have any stats, by the way, but I have one really interesting sort of tidbit that I would kind of like to see if you knew the answer to it. Do you know who had the most tackles today? And could you name a sort of vague idea of number of attempted or completed? I'll allow both answers.
the number of tackles, are you talking about completed or are you including fouls in that?
So attempted and completed. I will accept either answer if you get vaguely close. So name the player and the amount of passes or tackles. Sorry.
The player I think committed them, who made the most number of tackles. Um, I'm guessing this is not an obvious answer.
It's quite obvious, but the number is just ludicrous.
Casemiro.
Yeah, it's Casemiro, right? Do you know how many tackles he attempted and how many he completed?
And I'm going to say he didn't complete very much, based on what I saw.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of I say clue. It's definitely not a clue, right? The second, third, and fourth most completed tackles was 3 for 3 with Wan-Bissaka, Alexis McAllister, and Matoma. Bruno had attempted 4 but only completed 2. And Caicedo attempted 3 but only completed 2. Right, so that's your top 5/6, apart from Casemiro, right? Who attempted 13 tackles and completed 7. Was
Yeah,
there
so
any
that's
was the ball anywhere else in the pitch, or was it just on his lap the whole game?
yeah, and he seemed to commit a few fouls as well, a few. I think he
Yeah.
got lucky at one stage. He was all over someone, and the referee played the advantage,
Mm-hmm.
and he got away with a potential yellow card there when he was on the yellow, and
Yep.
then he was flying in. There's one, even towards
Right
the
at the
end
end.
there,
Yeah.
where he tried to make a block and he got nowhere near it, and he's gone off the boil, quite recently. Ever since he come back from that 4-game suspension, he hasn't looked himself.
He's
Uh,
looked a bit ropey. He really, really has.
yeah, and even giving the ball away a lot as well.
Mm.
Simple passes, and he's just giving it away. Um, yeah, and he's walking a tightrope again tonight. Yeah, he's another player. Just needs the season to end quickly and get the batteries recharged. But some of these players I don't want to be here in August. Um,
Same.
Fred and Martial. I'm going to be honest and say De Gea as well.
Well, Fred's contract's up, so that one is possible.
Solved.
I think it's
um,
either this summer or next. So if it's not up,
and
you're looking at a budget sale of a couple of million. Like,
and I know we've talked about Diogo Dallo before. That he's okay at everything, but
Mhm.
spectacular at nothing. But that's not good enough for Manchester United. And when he's playing at left back, he's being exposed. He's a right-footed player playing left back, and
Hmm.
they he doesn't stop crosses coming in. It's
To
and
be
when
fair,
I seen you,
none of our fullbacks do.
I know,
That's not just a
and
him thing.
it's not just that, but when Solly March, for example, he turns inside, and it's so obvious he's a left-footed player. March, he wants to use his left foot, but Dallo then goes down the line and just lets him have a free shot on goal. I mean, you need to know who you're playing against here and
Mhm.
show him onto his bad foot. Um, it just wasn't good defending at all. And Dallo, if he plays at left back against Manchester City in the cup final,
We
it's
are.
it is going to be a cricket score. I think it could be anyway. I'm not looking forward to that, to be honest, and I've said that a few
Look,
times already.
you know how much I love Dallo. I think he's a really, really, really good squad player. I don't think he's more than that. His wages aren't ludicrous, so I don't mind keeping him around. He's on like 60K a week,
Well, here's
which
the
for
thing:
us is completely pennies. Like,
there's clubs in Europe who really rate this guy. If we're offered good money for him, I would take it.
I'll drive him to the airport. I'd like if you can get 40, 50 million for Dallo, you could grab somebody better. As a squad player, there's no harm in keeping him. If it's somebody comes in with a 10, 15 million, just keep him. There's no point. Like, you're not going to get anyone that's going to be groundbreaking or step up and do better than him for 15 million. Whilst 40, 45, take that money, grab one, maybe two players, go out, look at Riddle Baku at Wolfsburg, go grab Konrad Leimer at Leipzig, who's out of contract in the summer, who can play right back, can play right midfield, play central midfield. That's both Riddle Baku and Konrad Leimer, that is. You could look at specialist right backs if that's what you're looking for, but you already have that with Wan-Bissaka. So you're surely wanting somebody that's a bit more versatile.
He's going to bring
Um,
in Frimpong, isn't he? By the sounds of things.
Jeremy Frimpong's been really looked at, and I don't get it. Like, he's a really, really good player. Um, but defensively, he offers nothing. He's completely the opposite of
Yep.
what Wan-Bissaka is. Like,
Yeah.
he literally just
Well,
stays at right wing. He's not a right back.
if we had Wan-Bissaka and Frimpong, it'd be like a case of horses for courses.
Yeah.
Wan-Bissaka against the big teams and Frimpong against again the lesser teams.
It's
So
something I could see. The only way Frimpong works in a United team is if we use the same thing I said we should have used under Ollie when we had Ethan Laird coming through and Dallo. Um, if you're going to use it, you need to use it almost like a three at the back, where Wan-Bissaka is tucking in ever so slightly, and then whatever that right back, so Frimpong in this scenario, is playing just on the right hand side of him. So it plays almost like a back three. But the problem is then you're sacrificing one of your midfields or one of your forwards, which could work. I mean, if you're dropping Sancho, Frimpong's a great replacement for that, which is a weird sense to say, Sancho for Frimpong, considering one's a winger and one's a wing back. But I think if you can do that and have Rashford off the left with Luke Shaw in behind him, that offers a level of balance. But I can't see Ten Hag doing that.
yeah, we're seeing a lot of these progressive coaches now pushing fullbacks into midfield. Arsenal do it, City do it, and we've seen Liverpool do it. So yeah, you could see like Frimpong becoming part of the midfield.
Liverpool's now doing it with Trent. Ten
Yeah,
Hag done it at Ajax with Mazraoui. And it worked there. Mazraoui's now at Bayern and not really doing anything. So I think he was injured, or he might have been sick. I'm not too sure. But he was exceptional there when they tried it. They used the inverted fullback and tucked him in the midfield, and then dropped the centre defensive midfielder into centre half and created almost a back three with the two centre backs.
yeah. It'll be interesting to see who we bring in, but we don't even know who's signing the checks yet. That's the major issue. I mean, Liverpool are making progress with signing Alexis McAllister, who scored tonight, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not in the race because we
What
don't
a player!
know. Yeah, and we don't even know who's in charge. It's going to be signing the checks in the summer, so that's why we can't make progress with signings. That's a fucking joke. Um, well, come back to tonight though. Yeah, not only was I frustrated with some of the selections, like I touched on earlier,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't make a sub the 74th minute and didn't bring on Ericsson at all. Now, for me, Ericsson is probably our best ball playing midfielder, and he helps us
Yeah.
control games. Why was he not used? Can you think of a reason why?
I'm assuming it's something fitness related, but as you said at the start, why would he be on the bench if it was a fitness issue? Um, I've really, really no idea. In terms of us breaking Brighton down, there was passes that could have been made long that I think Ericsson would have found, but I think we needed all action in terms of Brighton let you press, so they're going to let you just do what you need to do. We're going to find our pass. You've seen it a couple of times where we were so high up and so heavy pressing, and all they were doing was just like running their centre back to the corner flag, almost like nearly that far back, passing to the keeper. Jason Steele just reassessed back onto their side, and you're just switching the path of wherever they want to go and just letting you press as much as you want. Fred, Sabitzer, Bruno, Casemiro, Veghorst, Anthony, even slightly, are all going to do that press. It doesn't really work against Brighton. So maybe do you go for something else, which would have been Ericsson? Ericsson would have been perfect for that because he's that cool, calm head. He's that, not to that level, obviously, but he's that Paul Scholes type of player where he can just sort of chill with the ball, pick a pass, bang, over the top. There you go. Rashford, you run onto that, just clean through, no bother. Bruno has it in his locker, but he's so all action and all on the go all the time that you don't get to see it as much. Whilst with Ericsson, he's just so calm, cool all the time, just relaxed, just take it as easy as you need to be. Maybe he would have worked as something different, but it looked like Ten Hag wanted to do the big heavy press against Brighton, which I don't really
But
understand.
how can you press with Martial?
Yeah,
Um, he's just no, he doesn't. He pretends. He makes it look as if he's pressing when he's not, and that just pisses me off even more.
yeah.
And he never competes in the air. Or if it's a 50-50 challenge, he pulls out of it to protect himself. He's a player I've absolutely no time for, and I think he's probably lost half a yard of pace with all the injuries he's had. I think we've seen the best of him, and I think he has to go on as soon as possible. But I'm just confused as to why Ten Hag thought he was a good option tonight because he hadn't played him in the most recent games. Why did he bring him in tonight? Because what he'd been doing actually is playing Rashford up top, and Sancho on the left,
Yeah.
and it had worked to a certain extent, against Villa and Tottenham. Why did he drop Sancho and bring in Martial? And he never uses Facundo Pellistri at all, who's a player that's impressed me immensely whenever
Mhm.
he's been given an opportunity, and we haven't seen him now for maybe 6 to 8 weeks. So Martial is never an option for me, just the same as Maguire. He's not an
Yeah.
option either.
If they're going to play, they're going to play. They're always going to upset you at some point in terms of they're going to come on and they're maybe going to have a good performance. I don't hate Martial in any way whatsoever. I think there is a player in there. I think if you're looking a poacher, which is what he is now, let's be honest, he's not a out and out Rashford style striker where he's just going to take on three men, dribble it straight through and good to go. He's going to take on maybe one, maybe two straight in the box, tap it in, but he's not doing any running. He's not a pressing forward. He's not a deep lying forward in terms of just linking up the play and letting Rashford overlap or do whatever. He doesn't seem to be exceptional at anything. And his one capability is taking on one man, just a wee dink through the legs or something, and through onto a goal and just a tap in, which is a poacher's routine almost now. But
Well,
it comes back to the De Gea thing of many teams are using poachers, and who's going to take him, and
yeah,
who's going to take him on what 220k a week or whatever he's on.
yeah, I don't know how United are going to shift him with that salary. It's going to be like they're going to have to compromise like they did with Alexis Sanchez with a Serie A team who's willing to take him. Um, yeah, he's just. I think Martial is not going to get any better now. What we've seen of him in the lockdown season, what we've seen of him in his first season, that's the best Martial, and I don't think he's capable of reproducing that now in the future. Like I say, he's declined physically.
He's
And
got Rice Crisp knees. He's absolutely shattered. His legs just don't work anymore. What is he,
no,
27?
yeah, and he's played 19 out of 56 games this season, and that's just not good enough. So yeah, he has to be moved on at the end of summer, if possible, because like you say, the wage issue will make it difficult to move him on.
Almost like we had a
Um,
really bad business structure or something, isn't it? Same patterns here.
yeah, what do you call that guy? EW, who was responsible for that?
Eco
Um,
wanker, I think is what EW stands for.
yeah.
Entire wanker?
But
Yeah, I'm going with that one.
Martial had his opportunity tonight, didn't take it. Rashford had one. Anthony had a gilt-edged chance right at the beginning of the game. It could have been a different game altogether if he had buried that. Um, yeah, so once again, we just weren't clinical enough. One of the worst misses I've seen in recent games was Fernandez hitting the crossbar from 6 yards out against Spurs, which would have finished off that game, which he ended up drawing. But it's been story of the season, like you mentioned earlier. The goal difference is just a joke. Was it +9? And all the teams around us are like +56, +36,
Like even
and we're on
Newcastle's is like
+9.
weirdly good. Like ours is horrendous compared to like even Liverpool, who's below us, is 15 better. Brighton, who is two places below us, and we just lost to, but whatever, is 13 above us. Spurs are below us on goal difference, which is fine because they're shit. Villa are below us again. They spent half of the season in the relegation zones because they were getting managed by a joke of a manager. And then Brentford are only one off of us, who are sitting in ninth.
Yeah, that's not a Manchester United goal difference. That it just shows you how urgent it is to have a striker in. You cannot be relying on Rashford, who's mostly a winger, to score all your goals. It was a few weeks ago I heard a stat that Rashford was responsible for 35% of United's goals. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Probably
Um,
about right.
you might say that fair play to Rashford, but that's a down indictment on the rest of the team, and you can see it. The, like you mentioned, Newcastle in recent weeks have been scoring 6, 5, 4 in games. United are just not capable of that at the moment, and there's some way off the rest of the teams in terms of their attacking output. And there's a journalist, Mark Ogden, who made a comment on that earlier, which I thought was quite interesting. If I can just get it up here, I'm not talking about my cock, by the way. Um,
Didn't know where I was
um,
going.
Mark Ogden says lack of awareness or willingness to pass to a teammate is one reason why Man United score so few goals. City, Liverpool forwards always find a pass. Rashford, Martial, Anthony tend to dribble and waste possession. Yeah, there was opportunities in the game where we're in a great position. Martial would stumble or fall over the ball or something.
Yeah.
Rashford wouldn't get his head up and pick out Fernandez and ran into cul-de-sac. Just really poor decision making in the final third, and really poor shooting as well. Shooting straight. Always seemed tonight, for some reason, United were trying to constantly score by shooting at the keeper's legs, hoping that it would go in between his legs. But
Like
you
even
get you
Rashford's free kick was the same.
yeah, straight down his throat.
Mm.
Jason Steele is a pretty good goalkeeper, but and he has some
Yeah.
his stats have been pretty impressive this season. So it makes you wonder why Robert Sanchez was playing in the FA Cup semi-final. But I'm glad that he was, because the only two times that United have won a penalty shootout since 2008, Robert Sanchez has been in goal, and one for
Rochdale
Rochdale,
and Brighton.
one for
Yeah,
Brighton. Yeah,
nice.
so he's as bad as at saving penalties as what De Gea is. And we knew when Luke Shaw gave that penalty away that De Gea wasn't going to get anywhere near it. In fairness, it was an amazing penalty, and no keeper probably would have stopped that. But De Gea, how many
I didn't watch
penalties?
it. I still haven't seen the penalty. As soon as I seen Luke Shaw's hand hit the ball, I got up and went for a shower. I was like, nah, I'm not watching this.
Yeah, you knew what was coming. Yeah, I already had my coat on, ready to leave at that point. I knew that like as soon as a penalty is given against us and De Gea is in goal, might as well just walk out at that point. The game's done.
That's the thing as well. They're looking at keepers, and you're hearing all these rumors about keepers. And Robert Sanchez is one of the ones that's consistently being linked to United in the last 12 months. He's not better at all.
No, no, definitely not. One of the most ridiculous links to United in recent months was Melier from Leeds. Are you kidding me? The guy's an
I think
absolute donkey.
I think it was the first game of season last year. I was on here, and me and you were talking about it, and it was United versus Leeds, and we absolutely pummeled them. And I'd watched all of Leeds' pre-season friendly games just to see how they were doing. And he is one of the worst keepers I'd ever seen for those 3 games that he played. He couldn't have saved anything, man. If I'd have passed him the ball, he'd have somehow knocked it in. He was horrendous. But hey, we're pretty good at getting French players off of Leeds, so maybe he will work. Who knows?
No, not this time.
Nah,
I'm just seeing some pictures here of Brighton celebrating in the dressing room like they've won a trophy.
nah, grow up.
Come on,
It's Newcastle all
what
over
a
again.
small club mentality. Um, like listen, we'll take the FA Cup final and they can celebrate their double over us. I know it's match I'd rather win. This
Mm-hmm.
is that's not revenge. That's not the same as winning at
No,
Wembley. Yeah.
nope.
So look, like some players here are doing the robot dance. This is really, really pathetic.
That's really
I
weird. That's really weird.
know. Like, what is the justification for that? Like, you know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see Roy Keane in the studio and being asked for his views on the Brighton dressing room
He'd
currently.
be fuming.
Um,
He would be. There'd be holes in every wall in that studio. It'd be right hooking Micah Richards. It'd be absolutely just front kicking Gary Neville. Everyone would be dead.
I remember Aston Villa doing this in the dressing room whenever they stayed up, and Roy Keane was in the
Remember
studio
that?
and he was just shaking his head, frowning, going, What is this? I mean, if you won a trophy, fair enough, but avoiding relegation, this is nothing to celebrate.
Well, Dean
But this,
Smith ramping that one.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it was pathetic, embarrassing, really. And why is there always seem to be a camera in Brighton's dressing room? No matter if it's Wembley or the Amex, they all
Maybe
seem
it's
to
a
have a.
creep.
Is
Maybe
there,
it's
is there
just a creep just chilling with the camera. They don't even know he's there.
or maybe there's a documentary being filmed for Amazon or something? Is that what it is?
Maybe no. I think it's Arsenal's this year.
Yeah, yeah. I-
Not sure.
Luke Shaw has owned up. He said, "Hands up, silly mistake that cost us a point
Oh,
at the
don't say
end."
hands up. Definitely don't say hands up. That's the
Yeah,
wrong choice of words
yeah,
entirely.
yeah.
Hands
That's what he.
down. Look, that's
That
the
was the
problem.
problem. Yeah, he done a Paul Pogba against Liverpool. He put the hand up in the
Yeah.
air and give penalty away. But he's been our best player in recent weeks. In fact, he might even win United's April Player of the Month award, which will be announced
Look,
shortly.
I don't want to be that guy, right? Everyone rats on about Luke Shaw and how he's overweight, right? That's always been the thing since he joined the club, since the leg break, since everything was always he looks like he's had a wee bit of fitness issues, right? I don't want to jump on that bandwagon because 9 times out of 10 it is a wee bit bullshit. He's a bit chunkier than most footballers. So was Wayne Rooney. Doesn't really mean anything. He looks really lean all of a sudden. Like in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, he looks like he's shed a load of weight and looks like he's been in the gym like constantly since he's been playing centre half. And he's playing really well. So like I hate to feed the idea that Luke Shaw being overweight was the problem, but it does balance out with he looks slightly leaner than he did beforehand, and he is now playing better.
Yeah, I think he has peaks and troughs with his weight. Throughout the season, it goes up and down. Don't we all?
Yeah,
Um,
but we're not paid professional athletes.
I know we're not on like 6-figure salaries.
120, I
Um,
think says.
I know, yeah, something like that. He just signed a new one. I know
What is it?
people probably don't really feel like talking about it at the moment, but once again, Wan-Bissaka had Matoma in his pocket, and Matoma was desperately um, diving all over the place to try and win penalties because he just wasn't getting a kick against Wan-Bissaka.
You
Yeah,
talked about
so
it earlier with Dalot not realizing what foot Solly March was, and how he couldn't use his brain to figure out where he wanted to bring the player to. So I don't know if it's a tactical system or what, because Wan-Bissaka was doing exactly the opposite. He was putting Matoma where he wanted Matoma to be. He was putting him out wide, letting him. You've seen it in, I think it was the last sort of 5, maybe the last 10 minutes. Matoma had the entire left-hand side free with nobody anywhere near it. And it was within maybe just outside the 6-yard box. And Wan-Bissaka was just like, yep, no problem. And just stayed on that inside post and just let him have, or the outside post, sorry, just let him have that entire inside post. And he just watched him. And Matoma
yeah,
still cut inside and tried to take the shot at the far post. But Wan-Bissaka was just standing there, just watching it happen. You see a player like that have the intelligence in the defending of knowing what foot and where to put the player to know exactly what he's going to do. Whilst Dalot didn't have that, Wan-Bissaka definitely does.
yeah. We've seen this season players like Madison, Zaha, been very complimentary towards Wan-Bissaka, and Matoma in his interview after the FA Cup semi-final said that his performance against Wan-Bissaka in that match was a complete defeat. And tonight was more of the same, but obviously it didn't matter as much because they got that late penalty. But Wan-Bissaka really has his number, and to be honest, Wan-Bissaka rarely gets defeated by any winger. So look what happened in the League Cup final. Saint Maximin was given Dallo the runaround. Wan-Bissaka comes on. Saint Maximin doesn't get a kick, and then Saint Maximin is then substituted by Eddie Howe. So yeah, this is why I wouldn't get rid of Wan-Bissaka. He's an asset that no one else really has in the modern game. So he'll always be useful in situations, especially against big teams and tricky wingers. So if he is going to sign Jeremy Frimpong, then it will be a case of horses for courses. You'll have the attacking fullback for when you want to go on the front foot, and when you're playing against better teams, you'll have Wan-Bissaka. So that makes sense to me. And if we're offered 30 million for Dallo, I would snap their hand off for it.
I think personally, I
Um,
wouldn't take Frimpong. Everyone seems to be on the big Frimpong bandwagon. He's obviously a great player. I think he'd absolutely do bits at a top club. I just don't think he suits the system. I think having that so contrasting players just it doesn't sit right with me. It didn't work when we had Ollie and he had Dallo and Ethan Laird and Wan-Bissaka, because one done one and one done the other. So it was just a complete systematic change. But then if one of them gets injured and you're wanting to go into a game where you're wanting to do that all-out attack, but say Dallo's injured, you're stuck with Wan-Bissaka and having to put him in a position tactically that isn't going to suit him, and you're having to switch the whole system again. I think if you have a player that's kind of versatile and, again, a Dallo type player where he's a bit of everything, but better than, I think that's great. I think you look at Konrad Leimer at Leipzig, who's just exceptional. He plays in a midfield role. He plays at right back. He's played pretty much everywhere. I think if you look at how Pep's doing it with City, I hate to mention it, how Klopp's doing it with Liverpool now, where Trent, that right back's always sort of just coming in the inside. Ten Hag clearly wants to do that too. I think I might have sent you it a while ago. Ten Hag's system is really, really familiar because it was exactly the same system that Pep used when he was at Bayern, in terms of the right-hand side winger wants to cut in on the left-hand side, who's like massively predominantly left-footed, with a right back who drifts into the centre. and plays almost as like a central defensive midfielder with that player that was on the right hand side of midfield pushing up as an advanced playmaker, almost parallel to the attacking midfielder. Like that entire system is exactly the same as what Pep's was at Bayern when he was at Ajax, or Ten Hag's when he was at Ajax. Which is why Anthony being brought into United, I'm like, I think he might be trying to go the same system again here because it's that right winger, heavily left footed. So going for somebody like Dallo works better for the system, whilst going for Wan-Bissaka doesn't. And that's why I think Frimpong is neither of those two players. I don't think he inverts. He overlaps. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it'll be interesting to see who Ten Hag does bring in. It'll ultimately be down to him and McLaren and his assistant who they decide. There's obviously plenty of options out there, but we obviously have no say in the matter.
You don't know
But
that I might be a scout. I'm an undercover scout.
Yeah, well, you could probably do a better job than the scouts that were working under Ed Woodward's tenure, and they were a complete disaster.
I don't know what you're
Bring
talking
it,
about. We had the most scouts hired by any professional club in England. That's a true
yeah,
story.
through a recruitment agency,
Yep.
and they spent 52 million on Fred. So
That's a bargain. What are you talking about?
yeah, so tonight was not a good performance at all. And there's obviously question marks over the team selection and the substitutes. And Ten Hag has said recently that there was players only given 90%. Well, there was definitely players tonight who were going through the motions again, and they seem to think that top four is a shoo-in, and it's not. So big pressure on us now to go to West Ham and get a result. So he needs to, like you said there. Sabitzer was impressive with even with his first touch. He created a chance for United. He was away. I think somebody cynically fouled him. He needs to come into the team, or Ericsson needs to come into the team, or both of them. Why are we playing these substandard players and when we've got better players on the bench, and then taking too long to change it? Um, yeah, it's just so annoying.
Yeah, I
But
really like Sabitzer. The last time I was on here, it was when we'd just signed him and you were asking for my opinions on him and everything. And I think since he's come in to United, he's not, ripped up any trees or lit any fires or anything. He's not been a 10 out of 10 player every game, but he's done a job and he's looked good pretty much most games. Like he's not done anything exceptional, but he's been good. And as soon as he came on today, he lit the team up. He got one attack straight away, and then you were kind of relying on De Gea hoofing the ball up to nobody again, which means you weren't creating as many chances as you wanted. So you couldn't get the players that were doing this actual work. You weren't getting them on the ball, so they weren't getting to do the work.
yeah, and how Ericsson doesn't play any part in this game is just beyond me. Yeah, Sabitzer's the way he turned away from that midfielder was exceptional. No, Fred doesn't possess that quality.
No.
Fred was just another headless chicken performance. Just running around. I mean, the co-commentator said when he came off that he showed a lot of energy tonight. Energy?
He shows
I think you
energy
need
every
more than
game.
that at this level.
That's
Yeah,
Fred's thing is energy. That's all he shows. I've always said this. Fred shows energy every game. Doesn't mean he's good. Toddlers show loads of energy. It doesn't mean I'm going to stick them in midfield. It's just
it's he doesn't really provide anything, from an attacking sense, and still, players get away from too easily at times. He presses, yeah, but you need more than that. I mean, Jesse Lingard pressed. You need to show more quality than that.
look at how well he's
Uh,
doing.
yeah, yeah. It just shows you how many wasters we had at the club last season. We still have a few more that need to be moved on. Um, Again, if we're offered good money for McTominay, I would take it. Maguire has to go. The players I mentioned already who played tonight, they need to be moved on as well, in my opinion. And I think we need, a few weeks ago I would have said we need at least 3 quality additions to the starting 11. I'm going to say 5 now, to be honest with you.
It's
Um,
at least 3.
yeah, and we need to beef up the squad as well. So hopefully we can get 5 of them through the door, but that will all depend on who's going to be in charge of the club. Are we going to get
True.
an answer in that soon?
Probably not.
Because teams are already conducting their transfer business, and we can't do that. But they don't give a shit, the Glazers, because the most important thing to them is acquiring the most money, not what the club are doing in the summer if they're intending on selling. They're just absolute parasites and beginning to bug me again. If we throw this top four away, that's a fucking disaster. It really is.
Mhm.
Because I want the season to end because our performances are getting worse. We're losing games more regularly. On the cup final, I'm not looking forward to that at all. You
I'm
know,
actually in Manchester that weekend. And I am terrified I might get murdered that night because I genuinely I'm extending my stay. I'm going to an Arctic Monkeys gig, but I was like, oh well, United City. I'm in Manchester. I might as well just go to a bar and I'll watch the match. And I'm really not looking forward to it because I was hoping it would be a nice wee celebration because I'd get I'm in Manchester for United FA Cup win, but like I'm just not optimistic.
nobody is. I mean, it's one of those games where City have to have an off day. We have to be absolutely exceptional, and we need a bit of luck. And even
And we
then,
need
we might
somehow to
even
loan Holland for the day.
yeah, um, yeah. And it looks like it's going to be a makeshift back four. You know, because Martinez is not going to be available, it means Luke Shaw will almost certainly play centre back. So even if
Yeah.
Varane comes back for that, it's going to be a makeshift left back. Um, Either Malassi or Dallo, neither of those are great options in my opinion at left back, especially against an opponent as good as Manchester City. They'll target that weakness. And
On the topic of Luke Shaw, though, I have to give him a massive bit of credit right at the end. That turn to get away from the defender. There's just him
yeah,
and Lindelof at the back, and he just like we Cruyff turn, just bang straight through the middle of the two of them, just pulls it out of danger, no bother whatsoever. I thought that was exceptional.
yeah, I think from a technical point of view, he's a quality footballer. And never when he's in possession, um, and we're being pressed, I'm never concerned. Seeing where Martinez or Varane, for that matter, be see if it's Maguire, Lindelof, or De Gea in possession, and we're being pressed. I can't even watch. You're just expecting them to give it away. If that journalist Mark Ogden, to quote him again, after the Sevilla debacle, he said that Maguire, Lindelof, and De Gea are United's Bermuda Triangle,
Nice, I like that. That's
and
good.
I can see where he's coming from because we've seen it, that trio for about 5 or 6 years now. Now Lindelof, to give him his dues, has been better in recent games, but if Varane's available for the cup final, then he definitely starts for me.
Yeah,
Um, so just to do run down the player ratings, this will be interesting. After that absolute disaster show tonight. So De Gea, yeah, he made a brilliant save from McAllister just in the build up to the goal. I do have to say that there's a free kick that Luke Shaw was then booked afterwards. That wasn't a free kick. That fella, and that eventually led to the goal. And that fella, what you call him, he was diving around all night. Matoma was as well, but there's another guy, Incesso. Yeah, he
yes.
goes down very easily, doesn't he? It's embarrassing.
It's
Um,
I'm not even surprised anymore. It seems to just
and
it's the norm.
I know Bruno does it for United, and Rashford were down easily at one point tonight, so we have to be
Oh
fair,
yeah, so I'm not even. I don't even slobber anymore because United's team are the worst for it.
So De Gea probably a 6.
Yeah,
Wan-Bissaka, I'll say a 7. Kept Matoma quiet again. Lindelof 6. Shaw goes down to a 5 after giving away the penalty. Dallo probably a 4. Fred a 3. Casemiro a 4. Bruno a 5. Anthony, we haven't even talked about that yet. We'll get on to it in a second. Anthony a 3. Martial a 2. Rashford probably a 5. And then the substitutes, I mean, they didn't. It took far too long to get them on, so you can't really
can't
give
really
them a
give them
rate.
a rating.
Yeah, and then one Ten Hag probably gets a 3 from me. He made too many mistakes tonight. But Anthony, he was very lucky to remain on the pitch.
I
He
love it.
lost his head
I loved it.
completely.
I
But
loved that. That was exceptional. That little kick out, that is me playing pro clubs. That is me at five-a-side every time, man. I see that little bit of attitude, that little bit of just that bite. Oh, that's what you want. I'm sick of players getting fouled and then just being like, oh, why me? Why am I getting fouled again? Oh, and then just like whining and doing nothing about it. he stepped up and was like, see what's happening here. He kicks lumps out of me and it's not a foul. I kick lumps out of them and I get a yellow card. See what happens here? Like that little bit of just hurt, that little bit of actual anger coming out. You need that. Casemiro would have done the same.
But
Bruno would have done the same.
yeah, yeah. It has to be like Licha Martinez, though. It has to be controlled aggression.
Yeah.
You can't go like that. He could have got a straight red there because that wasn't a foul. It was a kick. He kicked the guy, and yellow card was very lucky in my opinion.
Oh, he
And
definitely
then
should have been sent off. I still love the attitude though.
yeah, I think Ten Hag loves the South Americans. He loves the guys that they show attitude, they show
Yeah.
passion. But it has to be controlled aggression as well. That he just lost his head. It was shades of kind of Wayne Rooney from when he was that age.
Skinhead Rooney.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I don't even think it was a foul that he wanted given. Remember, no, that really upset him. It was
It could go either way. If it would have been a foul, I wouldn't have argued otherwise. The fact that it wasn't, it maybe should have been. It was maybe sort of, if you're talking in the middle somewhere, it's maybe slightly vergent more towards a foul, but like, I'm not mad either way.
he was. I think Fred dragged him away. I mean, he was
really well.
He was in danger of probably swinging at Lewis Dunk as well, and that definitely would have got him a red.
I love that
But
too,
yeah,
by the way. Lewis Dunk is 6'4". Anthony was not even
yeah,
remotely.
and he
He's
went
just throwing
chest
the
to chest with
shoulder.
him.
Yeah, he threw the shoulder in his chest, and I was like, "What a guy! This is the attitude that you have to play for United. If you're going to hide away, there's no point."
Yeah, there's too many people out there who they hide. That's the right word. Martial is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that
Maguire, Jesus.
I
Was it
know.
the last match we had when Bruno was like everyone was talking around and every time Maguire came over, everyone would look at him and be like, "Shut up." It was the
Yeah,
Anthony one as well a couple of weeks ago too, where like everyone was like buzzing. Then Maguire came over and Anthony was like, "Yep, hello," and then just kind of walked away. There's loads of just stuff with
it was
Maguire where he just kind of hides away and nobody cares. As soon as he's over, everyone's like, "Oh, it's him again. It's that guy." Ugh.
yeah. I think that was in the Forest game where Anthony appeared to just ignore Maguire.
Yeah,
Ronaldo didn't take him very seriously either, Maguire.
I get it.
He's a bit of a joke figure now. I mean, Aston Villa fans cheered his arrival onto the pitch at the weekend,
I
and
kind of feel sorry
that's where
for
he's
him
at the
on
moment.
a personal level. I feel sorry for him on a actual
But
player level. I don't want him anywhere near my club. I want him gone.
yeah, do you know why I don't feel sorry for him? Because he's extremely arrogant.
Yeah,
His
he is a
interviews
wee bit
give it
up his
away.
own hole.
Yeah, he's nothing to prove.
Yeah.
I've won 9 games in a row. I've nothing to prove.
Nothing to
What
prove.
a
The
load of
cupping the fans after a goal against fucking Estonia or whatever it was.
Albania.
Albania, is that what it was?
Absolutely ridiculous.
Dickhead.
He just doesn't have the elite mentality to play for Manchester United, and he doesn't have the ability either, obviously. But that's
No,
something that
the problem is he does have the elite mentality. He doesn't have the ability to match it. That's the issue. In his head, he is fucking class and doesn't need to work on it. The problem is
but
he's not fucking class and he does need to work on it.
but cupping your ears against Albania t- tells me everything that he doesn't have. He needs to know that's just a mediocre game of football against a D level opponent.
Yeah.
That does not prove anybody wrong by scoring in a game like that.
In his head,
Um,
that was the Ronaldo like shush, calm down moment. In his head, that's
yeah,
what that was. Like the Ronaldo when he was at Atleti, it was the Atletico Madrid game, and they were like 2-0 down or something, and they're all booing Ronaldo and booing Ronaldo. And as soon as he scored and brought the game back, he shushed them and done the calm down. In Harry Maguire's head, that was his moment. That was his version of that. But in reality, he just looked like a knobhead.
yeah, and he's looked like a knobhead a few times in his career. Um, Harry Maguire is like he didn't play tonight, so we can't fault him. He's obviously more issues than just him, but he's a disaster when he
I'm
comes
gonna
on.
find a way to still fault him. If he
Yeah,
was a good player, we wouldn't have to play a right back at left back and a left back at centre half.
yeah, he's not even fourth choice,
No.
and he's meant to be captain of the football club. Yeah, whatever we can get for him, even if we're offered 5 shillings, let's take it and move on.
Again, I'll
Because
drop him to the airport as well.
yeah,
I'll do an
uh,
airport run. I'm hoping it's the same airport.
To be honest, he'd probably be flying only to the West Midlands airport or something. I don't think he'll be going too far. Maybe Heathrow or
Salford
something like
looking a
that.
player. I'll drop him around there. It's handy enough. It's not too far from
I
Manchester.
don't
So.
think, don't even think they'd take him. I'm not even sure Linfield would take him, if I'm honest. Yeah. Uh,
Although Linfield are pretty best days,
uh,
they might take him.
um, at this point, I'd rather have a 35-year-old Johnny Evans than Harry
Yeah.
Maguire, if I'm being brutally honest with you.
I said this 3 years ago
Uh,
or 4 years ago, whenever it was either just afterwards Sam Maguire or just before, I had said I would legitimately rather bring Johnny Evans back.
yeah, and I would agree with that. It's the biggest waste of 80 million of all time.
Mhm.
Um, Not even governments have wasted that amount of money. And actually, they have. That's a lie. But seriously though, he's the most expensive defender of all time.
Hmm.
That's just farcical, really, isn't it?
Which is impressive because his errors definitely cost that much.
Yeah, he's probably over the span of his 4-year United career, he's probably cost us about 80 points.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a disaster. He'll be moved on, I think, by one way or the other, and Bruno will probably be made club captain. I think that's the feeling that I'm getting from the manager. But we really, really need the summer to come quickly. And it's a strange thing to say when you've got an FA Cup final, but we all know we've got about a 10% chance of lifting that trophy on the
Right.
day.
I'm still sticking 20 quid in United to win. Doesn't mean I think we will. Still going to do it though.
Yeah, I'm sure the odds it'd probably be like 4 or 5 to 1. I'd say. To
I'm
be
actually going to check because
looking,
I'm intrigued. It's one
yeah,
thing. I had a bet let down this evening, a 4-1 bet. That got done out by 6 passes from Victor Lindelof. So maybe don't trust my betting too much.
yeah, Harry Maguire is an absolute disaster. I mean, but how many times do I have to say it? I feel these podcasts are becoming very repetitive. I say that it's like we could play podcast bingo here. I'll say United never take our chances. Um, it's very, very poor defending. They don't look fit. They've ran out of steam. Harry
Mhm.
Maguire is a disaster. It's like podcast bingo at this point.
I'm gonna get
We
you a
say the
card
same
for next time.
phrases every week.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna get you an actual bingo card for next time. By the way, 9-2 for United to win.
that's generous.
So 4.5-1 technically. Yeah.
No, well, it's actually like it's generous in terms of the bookies. You know, it's generous. I think United should be, at a bigger price than that. It's generous, in terms of United as a team. They're not 9-2 in that game, but it's stingy of the bookies to only offer that, considering the gulf in class between the two teams.
Yeah.
United, in my mind, are more like 5-1 at the very least.
City
So
are 8-15. So if you stick a tenner down on City, you will win £15.30p.
8-15. Yeah, I could see those odds. I see s- those odds changing. United's price will get wider, and Cities will get shorter, I think.
If you stick a tenner down in United, you lose a tenner. That's what will happen there. I'm really not optimistic. I'm in Manchester, and I know it's just going to be the most miserable night of my life. Flying home the next morning.
Yeah. By the way, you were at the Barcelona home game in
Mhm.
Manchester. United are not playing the same as what they were back then, are they?
Exceptional match that night, right? Because you got the first 20-25 minutes, there was nothing from us. You come into that second half, completely different gravy. Like you could see it in the latter bit of the first half where things started to pick up. But the second half, we were playing like an entirely different side compared to today. It was like two different teams. It's almost like the gas tank has completely been poured out onto the floor. Not even emptied or used. It literally just looks like not even maybe set fire to it or something. I don't know what happened, but the legs just aren't there. There's the 90% comment that Ten Hag made. It's not even 90%. There's players out there that are doing 70%, 80%.
Yeah, they're going for the motions.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good enough. Even Fred had a good game against Barcelona, and Anthony scored an exceptional goal that night.
Anthony
And
was great. He was very good that night.
United were really up for it. But to tell you something, a Barcelona player who impressed me that night was none other than Frankie De Jong.
Oh
Uh,
man,
and no doubt Ten Hag will have another go at that transfer.
He's pretty
Uh,
much already been told no, fairly recently. So I doubt it. It looks like De Jong's going to be in Barcelona for as long as Barcelona want him.
yeah, and I don't think Mrs. De Jong wants to live in Manchester either. That's
Who does?
obviously it's always a frequent problem. If footballers' wives want to move to, if they decide they want to move to England, it's London where they want to go
Yeah.
really. Roy Keane used to complain about that as Sunderland manager, that no wag ever wanted to
No.
travel and live in Sunderland.
Who wants to live in Sunderland? Nobody. This is the thing as well of like why years ago under Fergie we found it easier to attract players because the players that we wanted to attract was all the best British players. And all the best British players didn't care that they lived in Manchester because they were going to have a nice big fancy house in Manchester, which was slightly different than the not so fancy house in Brighton or wherever, right? It was going to be I'm playing for Manchester United in Manchester and I have a nice big fancy house there. Whilst now it is a case of the English teams are starting to take a sort of dip in quality and the players from across the world are starting to get better. So trying to attract players from the Netherlands and Spain, Brazil, Argentina is harder now than it ever was because they're going to go, oh, I don't really, United aren't the team that they used to be. So I'm not really worried about it. Like Sebastian Veron, these sort of players, they're going to go, it's United, like I have to go. So it's a case of you don't have that appeal anymore. And nobody really wanted to live in Manchester, but we were so good that they didn't care. Now it's a case of, right, well, we need to attract them with something. We're not that good at the moment, so I can't attract them with that. The owners will pay you out your arse, but in weird structures and nobody knows. And you have to live in Manchester, which nobody from Spain or the Netherlands or any of these nice places are going to want to do. They're not going to want to live in Manchester. As you said, London's going
Well,
to be the spot because it's London. Like everyone gets the big appeal of it.
well, fair play to Mrs. Casemiro
Yeah,
because
that was a
she,
strange one.
yeah, and Martinez came from Amsterdam to Manchester, and obviously Anthony as well. So um, yeah, so sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the player and on his relationship. But I think De Jong himself probably likes the lifestyle in Barcelona, and he's playing for a relatively good team. He's probably going to win La Liga this season. So
Definitely won the La Liga. Nobody's catching them.
so it like we can ask the question one more time in June. If he says no, then move on because we
Just
don't
text
want
and said
another.
please and nothing else. Just get
Yeah,
Ten Hag, just text them please and then nothing else.
we don't want another saga. I can't be bothered. I really can't bother
No,
with that. And tell you another saga I can't be bothered with. It's Harry Kane with Daniel Levy to August 31st. I do not. I can't put
don't
up with
care.
that.
I couldn't give a shit if we got Harry Kane or not. If we got him, class. If we didn't, couldn't care less. Could not give two. If we're out for a striker, there's a handful of names you could go out for. I think I done a tweet about it where I worked out statistically who it was and whatever. I can't even remember if I uploaded it, but I made a full Excel sheet of stats compared to who we have and compared to the best in the position of Ten Hag's system of that style of striker. There's a lot of players out there. Harry Kane is not the one to go after if you're wanting a nice, easy signing. He doesn't really, maybe he does want to leave. I don't know, but it doesn't seem that way. Like he's not, crying out to join United. And it's also trying to get players out of Spurs is just hell on earth. You'll be there fighting for days.
Who who do you think is the best elite option? We need someone who's going to get 20 Premier League goals. Who do you
The,
think you
the
would?
the problem is you don't have any guarantees right now that you're not going to absolutely pay out your arse for. You have to look at players that are going to be a risk, and you've players like Rasmus Holland, who is exceptional, but again, very young, one season in consistent top flight football. How much of a guarantee is that? Not really one at all. Um, Outside of that, you've got Osimhen. I'm gonna have to find my book. I had a sheet made up with all of the players and stuff, but there's not any guarantees that I look at that I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one that we need to go for. Like when Haaland was available, it was like, oh well, you have to get him, you have to, and then City did, and look what happened.
Yeah, also, man, we had to pay through your ass to fucking get that one done as well. Um, there are some options even within the Premier League. Like Ivan Ferguson is a player I'm a big fan of in those early days in his career,
Yeah.
but that's something that we could maybe look at, and it wouldn't be a ridiculous fee.
Hmm.
But I can't see any 18-year-old signing being our, that being our number nine signing for the summer. He would only, I could only see that being a signing where he comes in with somebody else.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously you have to look at players like Ollie Watkins, or they're
Really like Ollie Watkins. I liked him before he went to Villa, and then he had a bit of a drop off, and he's got very good now. He's very, very good this season. He's been really good since January. I've got my little list made up. I have, let me see how many names I have on this list. I have 10 names on the list. Number one was Victor Osimhen, because it's the most obvious one out there. Number two was Gonçalo Ramos at Benfica. He had a really, really good international run. Rasmus Holland, as I've already mentioned. Number four was Mitrovic from Fulham. I think if you're going out for a player that's definitely going to do something in the Premier League and can almost guarantee you something, I think he's a good player. He has that attitude that I talk about that Anthony showed. Number five, who's my actual sort of personal pick as a sort of go-to, but statistically doesn't really back it up. Dusan Vlahovic at Juve. I'm just a really huge fan. I think he's absolutely exceptional. Statistically this year, not been amazing, but I think you bring him into our system under Ten Hag and he'll absolutely do wonders. He's got that sort of RVP, Robin van Persie style approach. Number six is an outside one. It's Victor Gyökeres at Coventry. Statistically outrageous this year, like ludicrous numbers, like 99th percentiles across the board on everything. I think it's progressive carries into the box. He's in the top 1%. Like, he is elite this year, although it is at Coventry. So again, you have to take that a little bit of pinch of salt. Seven is Rando Kolo Again, everyone was kind of talking about him for a while. There's talks of 100 million price tag on him. Nope. Eight, Marcus Thuram at Gladbach. Again, as the further down this list you go, the more you realize that these are just backup options. These are not players that I'm looking to start.
He's a free agent though, so that would
Yeah.
be a good deal.
In terms of replacing Weghorst, this is kind of what I'm looking at here with Marcus Thuram. He's not a guy that you want as your leading number nine. Same with Beto at Udinese, another player that, again, big target man, squad player, not a starter. But if you are looking for that type of player, I think Tammy Abraham could be a really, really, really nice one to look at. I think he's a really, really good player. Doesn't seem to get the props that he deserves for some reason. Not sure why.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if we haven't mentioned the number nine sign in the show tonight. Out of all the names we've mentioned, surely we'll sign one of them. If it's
Hopefully.
somebody outside of that, I'll be immediately surprised.
This is, I'd seen the lads on Stretford Paddock were talking about, we need to sign a sort of Chicharito style player, the same way City got Julian Alvarez. We need somebody that's an outside shout. That's why I looked at Victor Gyökeres at Coventry. Somebody that's not going to cost 35, 40, 50, 60 million. Somebody that's going to come in, might surprise you and do well, similar way that Dan James did, where you come in, you do, oh, he's actually not bad. He's quite good at the football stuff. He's all right. And then if you're like, oh, maybe he's not as good as we thought he was, you can sell him on, maybe make a few quid in the same way you did with Dan James. If not, you break even. That's the type of player we need to go out as a squad player. And then you need a big number nine, like an Osimhen, a Harry Kane, a Holland, whatever.
Yeah, we need two strikers because Weghorst and Martial both need to be moved on.
Yep.
So we need the star name and then the backup. And if we can get the backup on a free transfer or a light transfer fee, then that's good business. Another thing I just want to touch on from tonight that really frustrated me, and I don't want to use it as an excuse, but I thought Andre Mariner had another absolute disaster class. And it was similar to the game at Wembley, where a lot of Brighton players were committing yellow card fouls and not getting yellow cards, and we're seeing more of that tonight. You probably should have sent off Casemiro and Anthony as well. The penalty was the right decision, but the free kick leading up to the penalty, that was not a foul. I think he's a referee that's been around a very long time, and he's beginning to look like he's past it. I mean, but this season in particular has been the worst on record
He's
for
had
referees
a
in the Premier League
couple
era.
of notable stinkers in the last few United games,
Yeah,
like so.
it's time to hang up the boots. I think that referee.
Mhm.
Can you believe the penalty that was awarded to Liverpool last night? It was a
Yeah,
dive by Darwin Núñez.
do you know what? I do genuinely think it was a penalty. Right? I know that's going to cause a lot of shitstorm, right? I've seen a lot of people arguing that it's definitely not a penalty, right? I think it is. I genuinely do think that's a penalty. The problem is, we had that exact same foul a handful of months ago and we didn't get it given. So the referees need to decide on what counts and what doesn't count. I think it counts because there's contact with the player's gone down, the ball wasn't touched. That's a penalty. In writing, that's what a penalty is. You've touched the player in the box, which has caused the player to lose the ball by not touching the ball, right? That's pretty much the handwritten definition of a penalty. That's what happened. Why are they getting it, but we didn't?
Yeah, what I saw there was the Fulham defender withdrew his leg and Darwin Núñez went down anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Theirs was actually lighter than our one, and they still got it, and we didn't. How many? Do you know how many penalties United have had this season?
it's not many, is it?
It's the least in the league.
I would say 3 in the league.
Nope, not even
T-
two.
t- I know one was against Crystal Palace because Bruno scored.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other one?
I can't remember. I just seen that there was only 2 penalties all season.
Disaster, isn't it? That's not many, like, for a team near the in the top 4 of the league.
Can you
Like.
guess who's top?
Penalty pool.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Not
Liverpool.
quite. I think they were. I think that's 7. I could be wrong. No, it's City with 9.
I'm not surprised at that, really.
I'll figure out what Liverpool's are.
You'd expect the team at the top of the league to have the most penalties, but United only having 2 is very, very strange.
Sure.
We're clearly not getting decisions, like, in terms of penalties. Look at the foul of McTominay in the Crystal Palace game at Selhurst Park. How is not a penalty? Is beyond me.
So many this season that was
Yeah,
like,
and Southampton,
really?
the handball, the Southampton defender on the ground handing the ball. There was a game earlier in the season where Sancho was clearly kicking the penalty area and nothing was given. It's strange. I know we've had things that went our way as well. Football fans have a habit of they only see what they want to see. The blinkers.
Mm-hmm.
Every fan believes that referees are against their club, and it's not true. The referees are just appalling, and that's the end.
It's not that they're delusional against us specifically. It's that they're just delusional and a bit thick.
Yeah. You see it time and time again on Twitter feeds, fans claiming that this referee is against them and this referee is against them. And you're like, that's just bollocks.
Yeah.
They're just really, really bad at their jobs.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's not specific hatred. It's just that they're pish poor at their job.
Okay, if everyone could please drop a like on the video, subscribe to the podcast, and comment more of your thoughts down below. And we will wrap it up there. Thanks for coming on, Matthew.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
No doubt I'll have you on during the summer months to profile the new signings and go through all the statistics.
Yeah, I'll do it, man. Definitely. I love my stats.
Absolutely. All right, I'll see you later.
See you later, bye.